Hey, we're doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas, Baltimore, Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. So Bill Gates has been caught red-handed funding a fraudulent petition aimed at blocking RFK Jr.'s confirmation as head of the NSH. None other than Bill Gates and George Soros.
I want to be politically correct. I think it should be white-handed.
Watch this.
Bill Gates has been caught red-handed funding a fraudulent petition aimed at blocking Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s confirmation as the head of the HHS. The scandal involves fake signatures, dark money, and a massive attempt to manipulate public opinion. Let's break this down. It all started with a letter organised by the so-called Committee to Protect Healthcare.
The Committee to Protect Healthcare is against RFK. Isn't that something? Really? The Committee to Protect Healthcare. Wow. That's another one of those organizations where you know that the exact reverse of their name is what they actually do. Yes. Like the World Health Organization, for instance. Here we go.
It was signed by over 17,000 doctors.
17,000 doctors signed the petition that Bill Gates started. Really? 17,000 for real?
Urging the Senate to reject RFK Jr.'s nomination. Sounds credible, right?
So I clicked on the letter. And guess what? I signed it. Twice.
She signed it. Is she a doctor? What did she sign it as? She signed it as...
One says Dr. Fake.
Dr. Fake. And then the next time she signed it as...
And one says Dr. BS. See for yourself. Anybody, anywhere, can sign this supposed letter repeatedly.
This petition isn't just misleading. It's funded by Arabella Advisors, one of the largest dark money networks in the world. And guess who the main financiers are? None other than Bill Gates, George Soros, and the Ford Foundation.
Arabella Advisors Network operates as a, quote, dark money organization, and they never have to disclose their donors. The Arabella Network manages billions of dollars in donations, making it one of the largest and most powerful forces in modern philanthropy. Arabella managed funds sponsor numerous advocacy campaigns and initiatives that often appear grassroots, but are funded by the same network. This practice, known as astroturfing, creates the illusion of widespread
support when it's actually funded by billionaires. Oh my God. Bill Gates just gave a Hitler salute. Anyway, doctors committee opposing RFK Jr. is Bill Gates-backed AstroTurf with fake names. The Committee to Protect Health, cited by NBC News and others, published an open letter declaring that doctors are appalled by Donald Trump's reckless decision to appoint Kennedy. Thousands are said to have signed. Because the last guy, Dr. Collins, a criminal, another criminal, that was responsible. The guy who lied to us repeatedly about COVID. The guy who tried to cover up the origin of the virus. Okay. The guy who told you babies needed to be vaccinated against COVID. That guy. That wasn't reckless though, huh? That's weird. The Committee to Protect Health is a 501c4 organization, meaning that it does not have to reveal its donors. Isn't that something? However, a related 501c3 charity called the Committee to Protect Healthcare Fund does have to reveal its donors, and it's funded in part by Left of Center 1630 Fund and Hopewell Fund. The Hopewell Fund, well, who funds them? Who funds the fund? Who's watching the watchdog? The Hopewell Fund has hired Arabella Advisors, a leading national philanthropy services firm, to manage its project, hosting, and fiscal sponsorship service. The 1630 Fund is likewise managed by Arabella. Really? So it's Arabella. So who is Arabella? Arabella's donors include Bill Gates, George Soros, Mark Zuckerberg, who has a yacht, who tells you climate change is real, and has a yacht bigger than a football field. His yacht, according to Capital, Each of them has given a tremendous amount of money to or through the main network of Arabella advisors, managed nonprofits, and used it to create policy advocacy projects for their favorite pet socio-political issues. So by the way, when they say their pet socio-political issues, they're referring to us because we are their pets that they're trying to train. And so why would Bill Gates be against RFK Jr.? Well, let's look, shall we? Remember when Bill Gates said this, when RFK Jr. had convinced Trump in his first term to have a commission look into the safety of vaccines. This is what he said.
I never met Donald Trump before he was elected. There was a thing during the election where he and I were at the same place and I avoided him. Anyway, then he got elected.
But he didn't avoid Jeffrey Epstein. Isn't that interesting? He didn't avoid Jeffrey Epstein. He constantly was flying on his jet, going to his island, having dinners with him. Isn't that something? It's a joke. It's a punchline that he avoided RFK Jr., a guy who, by the way, Barack Obama was considering making the head of the Environmental Protection Agency. Did you know that? They never tell you that. That's a headline in Politico from 2008. So he avoided that guy, but not Jeffrey Epstein. Just keep that in mind. So go ahead.
And so I went to see him in December. He asked me if vaccines weren't a bad thing because he was considering a commission to look into ill effects of vaccines. And somebody, his name is Robert Kennedy Jr., was advising him that vaccines were causing bad things. And I said, no, that's a dead end. That would be a bad thing. Don't do that.
That bad thing. It's like his whole brain gets tripped. No, that's bad thing. Why not have a vaccine commission? Why would that be a bad thing? What we're going to find out is that they're safe and effective, right? Why would you be against a commission to look into vaccine safety? That doesn't make any sense. And nobody ever challenges them on that. Nobody ever says, why would you be against that? Wouldn't that reassure the public that vaccines are safe and effective? Why would you be against it? Because that's all you're going to find out, right? That vaccines are safe and effective. Like, that isn't a red flag for you. That isn't a red flag for you? That he talks like a caveman? That would be bad thing. And you want to know why he's so into vaccines? Because Bill Gates is a megalomaniac, monopolist, psychopath, money grubber who wants to control things. He is Dr. Evil. And why does he want to have vaccines? Because it's his best investment he's ever made. And how do I know this? Because he's going to tell you right now.
We're here today with Bill Gates. A lot to talk about what he's been working on. And Mr. Gates, thank you so much for being with us. I'd like to talk to you about your approach to vaccinations. You wrote something recently, and like you always do, you kind of...
Look at him. He's on a vaxcation right there. The only thing colder than the weather is Bill Gates.
And he's not a doctor.
He's not a doctor, not even a college graduate, just to let you know. Not a virologist, not a vaccinologist, not an epidemiologist, not a doctor, not even a college graduate.
Looked at the problem from a scientific and business perspective on things. You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades, and you figured out...
He's invested $10 billion in vaccines, and what did he figure out? He figured out...
the return on investment for that, and it kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
He figured out what his return of his investment in vaccines are. What would it be? Would it be 100%? Did he make $20 billion? Would it be 200%? Would it be 300%? Would it be 500%? Which would mean he made, think $50 billion. Let's see what his return was.
It's been $100 billion overall that the world's put in. Our foundation is a bit more than $10 billion. But we feel there's been over a 20-to-1 return.
So a 2,000% return, 20-to-1. So that means he put in $10 billion and they made $200 billion. That's what that means. 20-to-1. They invested $10 billion in vaccines worldwide, and they made $200 billion. Is it your best investment ever, Bill?
So if you just look at the economic benefits, that's a pretty strong number compared to anything else.
I think the number
Compared to anything else. Compared to anything else. So maybe that's why he's opposing RFK.
that you ran through were if you had put that money into an S&P 500 and reinvested the dividends, you'd come up with something like $17 billion, but you think it's $200 billion.
Here, yeah. Helping young children live.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's about helping young children. It's not about the $200 billion.
Get the right nutrition, contribute to their countries. That has a payback that goes beyond any typical financial return.
Right.
Ha ha ha. Goes far beyond any typical financial return. So now you know why he's opposed. You know why he's doing that fake petition with 17,000 fake doctor names. And here's another reason why he hates RFK Jr. because RFK Jr. has exposed him.
What do you make of RFK and vaccines and what he's saying about it and the position he's been given in this incoming administration?
Well, he wrote a book saying that Tony Fauci and I kill millions of children and make billions of dollars with vaccines. And, people can judge for themselves whether that's correct or not.
Well, if he said that and that's not correct, you're the second richest guy in the world. Why wouldn't you sue his ass? If he wrote a book saying that you killed millions of people and made billions of dollars through vaccines, and that's not true, that's slanderous, why didn't you sue him? Why didn't you sue him? Bobby Kennedy wrote a book, bestseller. Nobody sued him. Isn't that something? Nobody sued him. You think there'd be lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit for a best-selling book that accuses you of murdering millions of children. Why didn't you sue him? Here's what RFK says about Bill Gates.
I know most about Gates, because I've written a book about him, and that what he calls philanthrocapitalism, which is you use philanthropy to make yourself rich, and you use it strategically, and that's what he's done again and again. He's gotten control of the World Health Organization so that they mandate vaccines all over the world, and the companies that make those vaccines are Gates is, in many of them, the major shareholder. And he did the same thing with the Green Revolution. He got a hold of the regulatory agencies in African countries and forced them to change the nature of agriculture. There's 20,000 generations of agriculture of people growing crops like sorghum and plantains and yucca and all these plants for subsistence. And he said, no, we're going to transfer them all to these, GMO monocultures of corn, and then we're going to bring in companies that he owns, Kraft, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, these big food companies, processing companies, to buy that, and that's going to be the deal. And then, of course, during COVID, all of that shut down, and you had, there's 30 million Africans now as a direct result of Gates' policy who are now on the edge of starvation.
Tell that story that you shared with me a couple of years ago about the vaccines that Gates sent over supposedly for women that, I don't know, was to control birth control or what?
That's another. I think the real tell was what happened with the DTP vaccine, which is diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. Because of Gates pushing this shot, it's now the number one vaccine in the world, DTP. And it's mainly given in Africa. It was that particular shot is discontinued in the United States because it was killing or badly injuring 1 out of every 300 kids who took it. We ended it in Europe and the United States, but Gates is giving it to every kid in Africa. And in 2017, he asked the Danish government for money to support this program, and it said, we've saved 20 million kids. The Danish government said, can you show us the data? He couldn't. So the Danish government went and did its own study, and they had records of 30 years of this vaccine in a country called Guinea-Bissau. And they looked at the records, and what they realized in retrospect, which they were never seeing, is that the girls who were getting that vaccine at 6 months of age were 10 times more likely to die over the next 6 months as children who didn't get it. Wow. And they were dying of things that nobody on the ground had ever associated with vaccination. They were dying of anemia and bilharzia and malaria and dysentery and nobody had made the connection that it's only the girls who got the vaccine who were dying of those things, that the other kids were much healthier. And the Danish government had retained the greatest vaccine scientists. All of them were pro-vaccine. A guy called Peter Aaby, who's like a deity in that space, and another guy called Sigrid Morgensen. And a whole team of scientists knew that, and those scientists started speaking up and saying, you got to discontinue this vaccine, and their careers, Gates made sure their careers were destroyed. So that's when I understood that he actually understands what he's doing. And, this is not just him being hypnotized. He knows that this is wrong because this science was indisputable. And it really made me wonder about what his motivations are.
So let's say that's not true, what he just said. So what RFK Jr. just said about the DTP vaccine and Bill Gates and Africa and the Danish government, let's say that's not true. Let's say he's lying. Let's say he's wrong about that. He's wrong on the science. Let's say he's wrong on that. Why didn't Bill Gates, the richest guy in the world, sue him? Why hasn't he sued him? Why does he decide to do a fake petition with fake doctor names? Why did he decide not to do a commission looking into the safety of vaccines, which would have just told us that those vaccines are safe and effective, and everybody would have more confidence in vaccines? Isn't that weird? I don't get it. I wish Bill Gates would sue him. I wish we would have a court case over this. I wish Bill Gates would sue him because he's obviously not telling the truth, right? That's obviously not true. Those vaccines are safe and effective. I mean, just because they discontinued it in the United States and they only give it that doesn't mean anything. Just because they continue to push the oral polio vaccine, which they don't give in the United States anymore, but they give it to poor countries, that doesn't mean anything. Why don't they sue him? Why wouldn't they sue him? So now you know that Bill Gates is what I've been saying for years, is a megalomaniac, monopolist, psychopath who is like Dr. Evil and wants control. He wants control of your food supply. He wants control of your health care, your medicine. That's why he funds the WHO, which is a criminal cartel. In all appearances, seems like a criminal cartel that's being run for the interests of Bill Gates, who, if you combined the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation donations to the WHO and Gavi, which is also founded by Bill Gates, those two together make them, this number two, if not the biggest donor to the WHO. And the former head of the WHO admitted that they have to do whatever their donors want because they have to beg for money. And then whoever gives them the money, they have to do what they say. That's what the former head of the WHO said. And I think that, the WHO is fantastic. I think they're great, even though they're, Bill Gates, strong case could be made that he's the one manipulating and pulling the strings. A guy who's not a doctor, not a virologist, not an epidemiologist, never even finished college. And what he's saying there is a lie. So why doesn't Bill Gates sue him? Why isn't he being sued for that? Why isn't the CDC and the FDA, why aren't they suing him for saying that? Why isn't the WHO suing him? Why doesn't anybody want to sue him? Because they don't want to go into court and have to defend their health care? Why don't they sue him? So now you know the rest of the story. Hey, we're doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas, Baltimore, Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.